Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video I'm going to talk about why should I consider using Project Oakdale in Teams. Some specific questions that I want to answer is where and how does it store the data? How does the licensing work? And then does this make any changes for the backend SharePoint? These are the three big things that I'm going to cover, but I'm going to in addition do so much more. So stay tuned, but first, here's my intro. So first, let's talk about these announcements that were made. Now, Project Oakdale, which by the way, when I first heard about Project Oakdale, it sounded like this is just something I would talk about, the cereal I would eat in the morning. I mean, Oakdale? It's like, I think I'm going to have Oakdale for breakfast. At least that's what it sounded like to me. But, besides the fact that it sounds like an cereal, there's actually a lot of cool things about that. So I want to jump into the topic right away. So the announcements. First of all, it was announced first by Charles Lamanna on July 21st of 2020, and I've got the link in my description below. So that was the first description, basically like a little bit of a enticing, to add to your appetite over there. Second thing was, it was officially announced in the Microsoft Ignite, which was just last week, in the Ignite, which was on September 22nd to the 24th, and that's when it was completely revealed with all its nice fun things over there. So these are actually the two dates that were announced. Now, overview of Project Oakdale. Now, Oakdale, basically, it's the same type of functionality to create, run, and share apps, bots, and flows inside Teams, directly inside Teams. So that's the one key thing. Now, it already comes with storage capacity that is part of your Office 365 license. Now, I put a little bit of asterisks over there because we'll touch about what exactly is this license. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the key thing, that you don't have to use existing capacity. It already comes with additional capacity, and I'll touch that more in just a second. But that would be a big takeaway for you, is that I don't have to pay about this. It already comes along with it. Now, the security is one of the other things which I personally focus on. You've heard me say security first, performance later. So I had my eye on this one, and I will be pleased to announce that the security is pretty tight. It already aligns with that, which is part of the security teams. The team security. So whoever is allowed to manage it, whoever is a member of it, directly ties that into the security of these over there. So it's very easy to use and very secure over there. So let's jump into the technical specifications of it. And this is where I'm going to actually answer a few good questions. Now, technical specification, the first one is every environment that Project Oakdale creates uniquely maps one-to-one to a Teams team. What that means is you create a team, and if you start using Project Oakdale over there, it automatically spins up an environment, and that one team will have that one environment over there. So it's a very one-to-one mapping, and it works very seamlessly, and it's very easy to manage. Second thing is, right now in the preview phase, it supports up to 500 teams. Now, that may change when it goes public, but right now in preview, 500 teams is the number. Now, it can also store up to 1 million records based on the typical usage over there. So 1 million is a lot. It really is. So right from the get-go, again, in the preview time right now, it's already giving you enough capacity to get this up and running. Even if it's just the testing phases or whatever, you've got enough capacity, enough resources to start playing with it. Now, the data that I talked about, in the Teams one-to-one relationship, it spins up at that environment. That environment, by default, comes with 2 gig relational database storage per Oakdale environment. Now, kind of keep that term in mind, relational database storage, because just in a few seconds, I'm going to be doing a comparison between SharePoint and Oakdale. And that relational database is kind of the key thing, which will be a helpful deciding factor if you want to just lean over to start using Oakdale, you want to stay on SharePoint, or you want to kind of do a hybrid between the two. That relational database will be the deciding factor over there. So kind of keep that in mind. All right. And the team governance, again, ties to the person who's created and using the app. Like I said, when a team goes ahead and uses Project Oakdale, creates an environment, and the ownership, the maker and the user of the environment ties to that team, the members over there. So it's very important on that. And then finally, you've already heard me say this a lot, but I want to call that out again, that it's in public preview. It came out in public preview, right? It was announced in environment. So right now, as we stand, right now, that the Project Oakdale, if the environment is deleted, if the team is deleted, it will also delete in the environment on the project, on the common data service side over there. So again, couple of these things that I'm talking about, especially these technical specifications, apply to right now when it is in preview, in public preview over there. Things may change. They might kind of, change the formula a little bit. But overall, right from the get-go, this is huge. This is already huge. So if you are in a situation where you're kind of saying, hey, I'm going to build an app, a Power Automate, or even a Power Virtual Agent, and I'm going to store the data in any of the other data sources over there, think again, because you now already have built-in data capacity inside Teams over there using common data services, which leverages Project Oakdale over there, and it comes part of your Office 365 license over there. All right. Now, before we jump into more technical specifications, I want to actually answer one question which it has been asked to me. Personally, I myself was a little bit concerned about this. So I want to clear that doubt and confusion. And the confusion is, does Project Oakdale replace SharePoint? And the answer is no. It does not replace SharePoint. Did you hear me? I want to call this out one more time. Project Oakdale does not replace SharePoint. And I've got very easy ways to improve that. SharePoint and OneDrive is a very critical backend storage of Teams. And you can't just pick that up and change it. Think about it. For every SharePoint site, every SharePoint site is created for every team and every private channel. Very critical, very important integration over there. The document libraries and folders are used. The SharePoint's document libraries are used for Teams file sharing over there. You can't just go and change that. And then finally, the document libraries are also stored for wiki pages. So SharePoint is a very critical file storage, pages storage environment in the back end for Teams. So it's not going anywhere. So if any of you are concerned, saying that, man, I just heard Project Oakdale has come over there. I've invested so much time in my backend SharePoint and planning in the integration of Teams. Is Project Oakdale going to make, is going to replace SharePoint? And the answer to that is no. SharePoint is there. It is integrated with Teams at its main storage place. It is not going anywhere. All right. Have that little peace of mind on that now, because I've cleared your doubts. But I want to do a side-by-side comparison. I want to do a side-by-side comparison between the SharePoint list and Project Oakdale, because there's a couple of things that I want to point you out. Plus, remember what I just told you to keep an eye on, relational databases. We'll be talking about that over here. So I've kind of broken down into a few questions and then comparisons, because that can kind of help resonate this verses in your mind. So the first question is your Microsoft 365 license sufficient? And the good answer to that is it works for both of them, side by side. All right. So it works for Project Oakdale. Remember, 1-to-1 relationships with Teams, 2 gig capacity, SharePoint Online. You have a SharePoint Online. You can go ahead and create your lists and libraries. It works for both of them. Your M365 or Microsoft 365 license is sufficient. Next one is, can you use standard connectors? And the answer to both of them is also yes. You can use standard connectors, because standard connectors is part of your Microsoft 365 over there. And so you can use that for the Project Oakdale and also for SharePoint Online. Now, can you use the app outside Teams? Now, when it comes to Project Oakdale, it's no. It directly says, in fact, I want to take a pause over here and take a look at this article which is already provided. So I want to go in, and over here in the documentation, there is, can Project Oakdale be used outside Teams? And it very clearly specifies, Project Oakdale is designated to work in the Teams client across web, desktop, and mobile. If you'd want to use Project Oakdale outside Teams, you need to promote your environment to common data. So that's after the fact. But over here, it says Project Oakdale is designed to work in the Teams client across that web. And I'll kind of show that to you. So we'll be jumping back and forth because there's a lot of information over here. And I've put the link to this in the description as well. So I'm going to show you that. So let's jump right into our slides over here. All right. So yes, when it comes to Project Oakdale, for Project Oakdale, the app that you've created for that environment in Teams, it's tied to that app as well. Now, SharePoint, I put a question mark over there because it really depends on how you've built that. And that kind of applies to even the common data service and the apps as well. But I want to focus on SharePoint. If you go to a SharePoint list and you build a customized form over there, that form it's like almost an app, but that form is tied to that SharePoint list. And I'll show you an example of that because I'll be talking about that in just a sec. So that app, that form which is built using the Power App Studio, a flavor of the Power App Studio, it's only tied to that list. You can't go ahead and make that into a map. In fact, you can't even go and convert that into an app. It's only tied to that list. However, if you went and built an app and you use SharePoint as a connector, then yes, you can access that app, that SharePoint app, outside the SharePoint list as well. Therefore, over here, I've gone and put that question mark. Now, based on the documentation I showed on Project Oakdale, if you're building an app for Teams inside the Teams, then it's only tied to that. So you only access it from inside the Teams, not outside. Now, out of the box or additional configuration needed? No. I mean, both of them have out of the box functionality. In Teams, I'll actually show you. I can go inside Teams, I can go in and build an app, and boom, it's right there. SharePoint, customized form, again, inside, right there. You don't have any worry for licensing and all of that. So we went ahead and covered, a couple of important things over there. Now, can you build table relationships? Now, that is a very important question. In fact, personally, this is a big decision maker for me as well. Now, in Project Oakdale, there is a way to build table relationships, and I'll actually spend the next, 2-3 minutes just talking about that. But SharePoint is a question mark. The SharePoint is a question mark is because, yes, it has lookup columns. It has managed metadata type of columns, but it's only a one-to-many type of relationships over there. And those relationships are not very easy to make. Trust me, you've seen me use the patch functions over there. Then you also build flows and everything. Those lookup columns, and if you patch it, those formulas get a little bit interesting. Now, by no means am I saying that stop using SharePoint and jump over to Project Oakdale. I am not saying that, all right? What I am telling you is that there's a little bit of quirks involved on SharePoint side over there. And if it especially has lookup columns and managed metadata type columns and things like that, you just got to keep a little bit of eye on that because that does make things a little interesting. I'm not going to say it makes things impossible or difficult. I am not saying that. What I am saying is it makes things a little bit more interesting because it doesn't have that built-in functionality like Project Oakdale, specifically CDS has. So for those of you who say that, hey, Daniel, I'm very familiar with SharePoint. It's been there for over a decade, so I'm familiar with that. Can you spend a little bit more time on the Project Oakdale, specifically CDS and its table relationships? I'm so glad you asked that question because that's the next topic. The next topic is the three things that come along with the tables of Project Oakdale relationships. So there's one-to-many, there is many-to-one, and then many-to-many relationships. And this is basically how it works, all right? The examples is basically what I like better. And I had to make these examples to explain to myself. And now I can explain to myself. I'm going to explain that to you. So one-to-many relationships example is table A can match more than one row in table B. But here's the way I really like it. So there's a school teacher, and that school teacher is classified as that one person. And that one school teacher has many students. So that's the one-to-many relationships, which kind of really helps understand that. Now, many-to-one is table B can match more than one row in table A. And then, but each row in table A can match only one row in table B. So here again is a good analogy that there's a lot of students, all right, in table A. So there's many students in B, but all of them match to only one school teacher. See, this is making sense now because the example actually makes more sense than the description over there. Now let's switch over to the many-to-many relationships. In the many-to-many relationships, students attend many classes and each class has multiple students. So each student over there is attending many classes, and that many classes has school teachers, and it has many students in each class. So one bunch of students attending single classes, and each classes over there have multiple students, and that's how the many-to-many relationships is built. So hopefully this resonates in your mind because I personally believe that the one-to-many, the many-to-one relationships is pretty easy when it comes to SharePoint, as long as you know what you do. In fact, I'll put a link to one of my videos that I've done over there, how to plan the SharePoint lists. I've done a 3-part series on that. And if you're interested in it, go ahead and take a look at those. But the many-to-many relationships sometimes can be a little bit tricky over there. And so keep that in mind. And here's basically how it is on the Project Oakdale's table relationships. 3 important things is obviously the type of relationships, which we just talked about, many-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. But you also have the functionality to add that, edit it, and delete it. And editing is the huge thing. You can actually go ahead and make that changes on the fly and then also delete it. So kind of now that I've walked you through, spend the first 15 minutes or so walking you through what Oakdale is, its technical features, technical stuff, differences between SharePoint over there. We also touched on the licensing piece on that, in fact, I want to take a break and talk about the licensing. There is a section in the licensing which talks about what all comes with your Microsoft 365. So here, again, in this documentation, it says which Microsoft 365 subscriptions include Project Oakdale. And over here, it says Project Oakdale for Teams capabilities will be available as part of the select Microsoft 365. It says part of select Microsoft 365 subscriptions and the Power Platform and Teams capabilities, excluding plan for US government environments. So keep this in mind. Now, I have been hunting and I've been searching through all these other documents over there, through introduction, over here, the capabilities. I cannot find what exactly are those available, as this part of the select M365 subscriptions. Currently in the preview phase, it says that yes, it's available for M365, but it doesn't tell you exactly which one. It definitely clearly says that anything to do with US government environments, it's not going to support that for now. But other than that, which one does it? Now, my gut feeling tells me, and I'm very important about gut feelings, it tells me that at least it'll work for the enterprise, and at least it'll work for the business classes. That's what I feel right now. My tenant has a combination of the two, and I've been able to work with it just fine. The enterprise E3, E5, and the business ones work. So I do think that those will work. Anything outside, we'll just have to wait and see. Again, it's in the preview, so we got to wait and see. Okay, so what I want to do is now I want to go ahead and jump into the demo one. And in the demo one, I want to do is something simple. I'm going to go and create an app because I want to show you how and where to create the app, and its editable data table. And I'm going to create a very simple one. You will actually have noticed that three of my peers over there, April Dunam, a Microsoft employee, Shane Young, and Reza Dorrani have actually done some great videos on that. I've actually put their links down over there. Shane and Reza have actually deep dive into how to build those videos. They've talked about how the relationships and everything set up over there. So I've kind of put their links over there. So go ahead and check that out. Obviously, check it out after you've seen mine. Which, by the way, this is a good time to go ahead and subscribe for my video. If you already like it, go ahead and subscribe for it, and definitely like and put comments down there. So back to this one over there, they're going to, in the demo, how to go and create the app. I'm going to show you then on the environment side, because that's something that I want to focus on, is how does it affect the environment? What is the additional, how does it affect your tenant? Where does he add the additional environment and its capacity? And then finally, we are going to review the Teams App Studio as well. So we'll actually go ahead and take a look at all three of those. All right. So let's jump in over there. So here I am in my Power Apps. Nothing fancy. This is what my Power Apps looks like. I'm going to come over here into my Admin Center, and I'm just going to keep this open for now. All right. In my Admin Center, I'm going to keep this available. And what you can see right now are the environments that I have. Right. Keep in mind that I've already done a test one. So it says the test one was for a team that I created called Family Health. In that Family Health, it actually tells me that, hey, this is a Teams one, but these are the other environments that I have, which came along with my Power App. So I'll keep this open. We'll come back to that in a minute. So next thing I want to focus on is my team. And here is my team. All right. This is in my tenant, and it's very important that we come over here. What I'm going to do now is I am going to, first thing is create a new team. So I come over here and I'm going to say join or create a team. And I'm doing this fresh. So you see that how it affects not just the existing teams, but how it affects the new team. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to create a new team. I'm going to say I'm going to build a team from scratch. And a build and team from scratch. I'm going to say, yep, I want this as a private one. I'm going to call this as Power Apps Champions. And then I'm going to create that. It's creating the team. This is nice work. Next, it says is that start typing a name. I'm going to add members to the Power Apps Champions. So I've got a few members I'm going to add. There's Gabriel. There's Elijah. I have Finn, Rosanna. Gone ahead and added all of them, basically all members of my family. It's going and adding them as members. Right now, Rosanna is my wife. I'll go ahead and change her as an owner, so she's good there. Finished all the changes, done, close. We are good. I have a brand new team created over here. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here in the team. Right here, I'm going to come on these ellipses for adding more apps. I'm going to click on Power Apps. Now, if you don't already have that, you come into the settings over here. You come over here to the apps. In the apps, you search for Power Apps. And it's right over here. Click on Power Apps. And over here is the process where you'll go through and actually add that app into your tenant and things like that. It doesn't cost you anything, but here is a point where you might get stuck. What may happen is in your tenant, adding apps may be restricted. Power Apps may not be allowed as an app in your teams. And this is a very simple fix. Go ahead and ask your team's admin team that, hey, I want to go ahead and use Power Apps over here. And then they will go ahead and allow that to, whatever teams. But this is basically it, all right? So I come over here, I click on Open, and it opens me up straight into the Studio piece over here. And the Studio, because remember, it's in Power Apps preview, is a little bit different right now, right? It shows that I have Home, Built, and About. But let's take it step by step. I'm going to go ahead and create an app. When I create an app, this pop-up box opens up. And the first thing it says is select a team that you want to add your app to. Obviously, the ones that it shows are only the teams that I have access to, all right? So that's there. So I've gone ahead and created an app. I've selected the team. And it says you are the first person to create an app in this team. We'll need to do something up, so loading time will be a little bit longer than used to. That's fine. So it's going ahead, says give us a minute, and it goes ahead and starting to build that app over there. Not a big deal. In fact, it kind of has a little bit of a resemblance to what the Power Virtual Agents look like. But all in all, it's helpful because it's telling the end user that, hey, I'm doing something, so just wait. So we wait. All right, it's finishing up. Takes me straight into the Power Apps over here. This has the same look and feel as if it's going to the Power Apps Studio. And it says getting things ready. It's getting us in. Again, looks so much like the Power Apps Studio because in reality, that's what it is. It is getting into the Power Apps Studio area over here. And here we are. It is in the Power Apps Studio. It has the same look and feel. There is a couple of differences, but we'll first start creating that, all right? So here, I'm going to create a table, and I'm going to call that as Family Appointments. I can click on the Advanced Settings, and it says, hey, the plural name for that is Family. This is also the same, because I said Family Appointments. So I'm going to create that. So it's creating the table. In the table now, I have the functionality to go ahead and add my columns, even the data right here, right? Very similar to what I can do on the CDS side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here. I'm going to edit the column and I'm going to say appointment names. Appointment name. I can come over here. Maximum length is 100. I'll save that. This is good. Saving it. Next, come over here to add column. I'm going to say family member. Put that as a text for now. 100. Create. The other thing that I wanted to do is that if I'm going to be using some kind of ID number related to the appointment, I need a way to automatically create the auto ID. And that's beautiful because it comes over here and there is a ID. I'll call this as appointment ID. Come over here and there is auto number, which is huge. I love it. Remember, even SharePoint has an ID column over there. CDS technically actually has an ID column. It's got a little bit of a long URL, like a hex code or something. But this one also does that. And all of us who've come from the database backgrounds, even like on SQL, Access databases, having an auto number functionality really helps in the relationships part of it. And this is now built-in feature in the Project Oakdale over there. So I created that. It all looks good. Let's see appointment name. Next thing I'm going to do is appointment type. So I come here, I'm going to put in not a lookup, but I'm going to put in a choice. So the first choice will be, let's do clothes shopping. Next is I do dentist. Eye exam. Just call it eyes. And then school event. All right, just put in some 4 easy ones over here. That. Gone ahead and created that. And then I'll also say I haven't actually added a appointment date. So we put in a date and we are done. So it's already saved. I didn't have to do any save things over there. And right now I don't have any data, but I could actually go ahead and add any data over there. I could hide, I could refresh it, but I'm actually good. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And it already shows that this is the CDS entity that I created. Next, it automatically went ahead and updated my app over here. This is pretty fantastic because if I click over here, it automatically went ahead and added that entity. It automatically went ahead and added this thing over here. So I can click on save and I can go ahead and even preview it just to see what it looks like. I click on that. This shows up. Appointment ID is automated, appointment date. See, I love the date component that is available over here. Date control that's available over here because it's got a nice look to it. If you notice something in Power App Studio, there's been that one big complaint is that, Daniel, when I select an app, select a date, I've got to go ahead and click on that OK or save over there. Is there some way that I can go ahead and remove that? And in Power Apps, in the Power Apps Team Studio, they'll automatically go ahead and factor that in. There's one more thing that they've added over here, which I'll show you. So anyway, let's continue. I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, this is a school event, family member, it's going to be Elijah, appointment name, whatever, school event or school time, save it. There's a required name over there, appointment name. I am volunteering. I could actually put that as a description at this event, all right? Perfect. Do that. Come on. Save it. And here you go. So the app is fully functional and it is going ahead and saving it. Again, I haven't put too much description on this because on the bottom, my 3 friends have already done a deep dive video on that. So I'm going to actually go ahead and now come out over here and in here, in fact, let's just go outside. Let's go back to our teams, go to our Power Apps Champions. This is the one where I created that. Over here now, I can actually go and click on the add the tab and I can click on the Power Apps and I can go ahead and add the app from there. The other thing that I can do is I can just click over here, click on apps. Again, if you can't find it, you'll be able to go ahead and see it. Here, I've seen my Power Apps. I can click on more. Tells me for my family health team, these are the ones that I have. For the Power Apps Champions, this is the one that I just created. Yep, that's the one over here. That's for the Power Apps Champion. So I can go ahead and add, I can either come over here and add a new one, app or a chatbot. But what I want to do is I want to now come over here. To all apps, click on that app, and I'm going to add to Teams. Right there. This is download. I don't want to add it from here because that's a different way. That's when it goes ahead and downloads that and uploads it over there. I don't want to do that. What I can do is I want to come directly to my Teams. All right, come over here, click on that, click on Power Apps, go ahead and add it. When I add it, it directly takes me into this open control for Power Apps. It's loading over there for a second. And here, when I type in, see, these are all the apps that I usually always had in my Power Apps site. But if I go ahead and just type in appointments, see, Daniel Christian Family Health is the one of the apps that I created. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That was the one which was in my Teams one. So I'm going to click on Save, right? When you create an app over there, it'll go ahead and click that Save as well. And here's the one. Now, granted, this was the different one. But again, you see the app is there. The point is, this is how I created the app in Teams. I didn't have to do it the old school way where I exported as a zip file, imported. I directly went and just added the app through Teams. It opened up and said, hey, here's all your apps. You search for the app name. It showed even the app that I created in Teams. And as I was able to add it in the top menu over there. So this is basically the simple piece of it on the front side on the design. But what I want to do is I want to go and take a look at the environment in the backend as well. So I come over here, and this in the admin center is where I want to spend a little bit more time. So I come over here and I click on refresh, and now you see the new environment. It's the Power Apps Champion. So let's click on that. All right, we go and take a look at the environment, spend a few minutes over here. So what already has happened? First thing is state is ready. It built the app, it made me build the environment, and it is ready, it's good to go. type is Microsoft Teams. And then it tells me that this one is now tied to the Power Apps Champion security group. The Power Apps Champion as a security group was actually tied directly to the team that you created. So anybody who's an owner of that team or a member of the team directly gets access to this environment, and then and then they get access to the app. It is all built inside the teams over there. I didn't have to come into the environments over there. I didn't have to go and, go to the maker role over there, add a user, or the user role and add a user over there. None of that. Directly tied into teams over there. Works very well. And it's all tied in over here. Now, the other thing I want to show you is in the analytics piece, in the capacity. So I click on capacity, and by default, when I come over here, the summary only shows the ones that are tied to my Power Apps tenants. And I actually have only 3 big ones, right? It was my default, dev, and prod. And notice over here, I was way out of capacity. But that did not affect the creation of the teams. Why? Because Teams gives you that 2 gig extra data. And this is huge. I want you to understand that, is that somebody comes and says that we can't use that Teams Power Apps or Project Oakdale because we are running out of storage on Teams. That's not a problem. And I just proved that to you. I am way out of storage in my Power Platform over here. But when I went ahead and created a storage place, or I created in the environment, I went ahead and started using Project Oakdale, it adds that 2 extra gigs. And I'll prove that to you. One of the things I like is actually it has this storage, again, the storage capacity. Storage capacity shows you only your Power Apps environments. But now there's a third tab, which is called as Microsoft Teams capacity usage. When I come over here, it shows you that. Now this is interesting because I just created Power Apps Champion. I only have added 1 app over there, but it automatically goes ahead and uses 50% of it. The reason it does that is because when it's going and creating a capacity, an environment, there's a lot of backend work that has to be done. There's actually CDS entities that need to be created. The CDS entities also where you'll be adding it, but there's some relationship work that needs to be done, and all the storage capacities. There's some back-end work that needs to be done. And because they want to give you full access to that backend, it does use your capacity for that. So you would expect that, hey, I've just built 1 app and I just added one entity over there, and I only added 1 row. Why is that taking 1 gig of usage? That's because the 1 gig is not just for your app. It is to spin up the entire environment and all the other bells and whistles that come along with it. That's part of that 1 gig over there. So it consumed 50%. You still have 1 more gig to consume, and that's pretty good over there. All right. So this is how it works on the Power App side on the backend entity over here. Now I want to do a last example and then we'll close. Is when I come back into my teams, directly from my teams, this was a previous team that I had. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to delete this team. It says, delete innovation teams technology. Are you sure you want to go ahead and delete that? It says, yep, I understand that everything will be deleted. I delete that teams. Now the deletion process goes through a couple of things because there's a bigger back-end work that's happening on Teams, right? Because it affects Exchange, it affects SharePoint, it goes ahead and affects your Active Directory and the Office 365 group. So it's going and deleting all of this, but it will also go ahead and delete that 1 environment which it created. So if you wait for a while and we go back into our Power Apps over here, go back into our Admin Center, let's go into the bigger environments over here. And if I refresh it, any second now, you will actually see this family health disappear over here. It's going to take a while because that's how Office 365 works. But in a nutshell, this is what it says, is that the creation of let me actually scroll down. Who can create environments here? Can a Project on Oakdale environment be created? It says, yes, in public preview, a Project Oakdale environment is deleted when the associated team is deleted. So I went ahead and deleted that team from Teams. It will go ahead and delete that Project Oakdale environment as well. It's very important for your Teams owners to know that. So when you're deleting it, it's like, oh, but the apps are in Power Apps, so it won't affect that. So, oh no, it will affect it. It will get deleted. So keep that in mind. So as an overview, we've talked a lot about the Project Oakdale. I want you to kind of keep that in mind, that it's a new thing. It's in preview, but start planning about it. Take a look at it, play around with it. I've already given you a really good overview of how the backend, the administration of it works. What are the bells and whistles? where all it is connected over there, how the licensing works. I've kind of walked you through it in deep dive. I've already put the links down to some really great bloggers who've even walked you through building those apps over there. So you've got enough information to start thinking about it, start playing with it. And hopefully this has caught your attention on the Project Oakdale. And as always, keep Oakdaling.